Okay, students, today we have to study the difference between an animal cell versus plant cell. On your screens, you can see that we are going to start from an animal cell. So firstly we have to study parts of an animal cell. What are the parts of an animal cell? Okay, so in your books, there are only 3 parts given. So we have to start with only these 3 parts, okay? That is nucleus, cell membrane, and cytoplasm. An animal cell has a structure as shown on your screen, and it is having a nucleus in the center, a cell membrane, and a cytoplasm. Okay, so what is the function of each of these structures? Like, what does nucleus do? What does cell membrane do? What does cytoplasm do? We have to study the structure and function of each part of an animal cell. So what is nucleus? Firstly, open page number 20 of your books. First point is nucleus. What is nucleus? A nucleus is the control center of the cell. Underline, a nucleus is the control center of the cell. What do we mean by control center? A nucleus controls every kind of activity in the cell. Okay, a nucleus has all the information which tells us what happens in a cell. It contains all kind of information, and it controls everything that happens in the cell. So basically, nucleus is the control center of the cell. You can underline the first line. A nucleus is the control center of the cell. It is not only found in an animal cell, it is also found in a plant cell. As you can see in the next picture, this is a plant cell. As you can see, now a plant cell is also having a nucleus. This one, W1. This is the nucleus of a plant cell. It means that a nucleus is present both in an animal cell and a plant cell. Basically, nucleus is present in every kind of cell, because nucleus is the control center of the cell. It controls everything that happens in the cell, and it contains all the information that is responsible for everything that happens in the cell. So nucleus controls all the activity of the cell. That's why a nucleus is present in both an animal cell and a plant cell. Like a brain. A brain, just in a human body as well as in animals, a brain is present to control all the activities of the body, because the brain is the thinking part of the body. Okay, similarly, a nucleus is the thinking part of the cell. A nucleus controls whatever happens in the cell. It controls the activity of the cell, and it is present in both plant cell and an animal cell. It means that this is the similarity between an animal cell and a plant cell, that a nucleus is present in both animal cell versus plant cell. Next part we are going to study is cytoplasm. Now you can see that this light color is cytoplasm. Means to say that cytoplasm is present in an animal cell. Now I will show you a plant cell. Now you can see that cytoplasm is also present okay. Now you can see that a cytoplasm is present in an animal cell, in a plant cell as well. Okay, so it means a cytoplasm is present in both animal cell versus plant cell. So it is a similarity. This is the second similarity. This is the second same feature which a plant cell and an animal cell is having, that they are having cytoplasm. Now I will tell you what is a cytoplasm. A cytoplasm is a fluid structure like water, like a liquid. A cytoplasm is basically a liquid. Cytoplasm is fluid. It can flow. The fluid portion of a cell which floats in the cell, which floats around the cell outside the nucleus, is called the cytoplasm. Okay, it does not move inside any structure, inside any part. It just floats around in the cell. So it is present in both an animal cell, as you can see. This one is the cytoplasm, and it is like floating around. This fluid portion is moving around in the whole cell. And also in a plant cell, this fluid portion is moving around in the whole cell, outside the parts. Now, there is a third similarity. As you can see in the structure, of an animal cell, as we are seeing, there is a cell membrane. Now, what is a cell membrane? Now, it is present in an animal cell. Now, we see a plant cell. Now, can you see a cell membrane in a plant cell? This one, the yellow color. This is the cell membrane. Now, they have colored this diagram to show you the difference. So, this is the cell membrane. Now, a cell membrane is also present in both an animal cell and a plant cell. So, what does the cell membrane do? What is the function of a cell membrane? A cell membrane protects a cell. A cell membrane protects the cell from any kind of damage from the outside environment. A cell membrane protects a cell from any kind of damage from the outside environment. Okay, so it is also present in both an animal cell and a plant cell. So you can underline in your books, come to page number 20 of your books, you can underline as the cytoplasm, the second pointer of your books, the third paragraph of animal cell versus plant cell. The cytoplasm is all the living matter except for the nucleus. Okay, because nucleus is a separate thing, and cytoplasm does not come in because it is fluid. So we can say that it can come, but no, it cannot come in the nucleus. Nucleus is a separate portion. Okay, nucleus is the brain of the cell. Okay, the third one, the cell membrane. Underline, the cell membrane is a thin skin around the outside of the cell. Now, as you can see in the picture of an animal cell, that the cell membrane is very thin skin. It is a very thin skin and it is protecting a cell. It is surrounding a cell. Now, what does it do? It prevents the cell contents from escaping. Underline the word contents. Cell contents meaning cell parts or cell, any kind of like component of a cell, that is its contents. Okay, cell contents meaning components of a cell. So it prevents the cell components from escaping. Okay, so a cell membrane also prevents the cell contents from escaping, any part of cell from escaping, but it does allow substances like water and other small molecules to cross in and out of the cell. It means it can allow diffusion. We have studied diffusion. What is diffusion? Diffusion means that anything like water, it can move from one place to another. This is called diffusion. Basically, diffusion means to move from a higher concentration towards a lower concentration. But over here, I will just tell you that diffuse means that any parts or anything can move in and out of the cell. So substances like water and other small molecules can come in the cell and can go out of the cell. Through which part of the cell? Through a cell membrane. Now a cell membrane is present in an animal cell, and also, as you can see, a cell membrane is present in a plant cell. It means a cell membrane allows the substances to go in or to move in and out of the cell. So till now we have studied three structures, or basically we have studied three similarities between an animal cell and a plant cell. I have told you that we will discuss these three parts of an animal cell which are in your books. What are these? A nucleus, a cell membrane, and a cytoplasm. These three parts are mentioned in your books, and I will discuss these three parts. So firstly, we have studied what is a nucleus. So what is a nucleus? A nucleus is the control center of the cell. It is basically like a brain. It is a thinking part of the cell. It can control all the activities of the cell. Secondly, we have studied about cytoplasm. So what is a cytoplasm? A cytoplasm is a fluid portion of the cell. It is a liquid part of the cell, and it is the living matter of the cell. It can move around the cell, but it cannot go inside the nucleus. Okay, because it is a liquid, it doesn't mean that it can move in the nucleus. It cannot move in the nucleus. It will move around the nucleus inside the cell. Okay, thirdly, we have studied cell membrane. What is the cell membrane? It is a very thin part of the cell, a thin skin around the cell, okay, and it prevents the um, cell contents from escaping, and also it allows materials to diffuse in and out of the cell. Materials like water can come in the cell and they can also escape a cell. Okay, so now secondly, plant cell. We have studied these three similarities in a plant cell as well, like nucleus, cytoplasm, and cell membrane. So these three parts are the similarities between an animal cell and a plant cell. Now we are going to discuss the next three parts, which are only present in a plant cell. They are not present in an animal cell. So what are these? Firstly, cellulose cell wall. Okay, firstly there is a part given in your books. In the look at the diagram of your books as well, page number 20, diagram of an animal cell and a plant cell. Now you can see a plant cell in your books as well, that they have shown you a cell wall. So what is it? This is a cell wall. Cell wall is made up of which material? Cellulose. Plant cell wall is made up of cellulose. That's why they have written cellulose cell. Cellulose is the material from which a cell wall is made. You can underline if it is written in your book. It's not written, you can write down cellulose cell. Plant cell wall is made up of a material that is called cellulose. So, cellulose cell wall. Secondly, mitochondrial, we will not discuss because it's not included in your book. Okay, come to the sixth point, permanent vacuole. Now a vacuole is also shown in your books. You can compare your book diagram with this diagram, okay? Now in your books you can see there is a very large vacuole present in the center of the cell. And also you can look at this diagram that a very large vacuole is present in the center of the cell. What is this? A permanent vacuole. Okay, permanent vacuole. Okay, now we will discuss the next part. I will describe the function later. I'm just discussing the parts. Now these green structures, what are these? These are called the chloroplast. Now there are chloroplasts mentioned in your books as well. What are they saying? Green chloroplasts. In your books, what is written? Green chloroplasts. Why they are saying green chloroplasts? Because basically they are green in color. That's why they have called green chloroplasts. Okay. So now we are going to discuss these differences. Firstly, cellulose cell. Okay, now come to your book, page number 20. After the third paragraph of animal cell versus plant cell, it is written, in addition to these, plant cells have three other important features. Means these are the differences. Number one, the cell wall. The cell wall is a rigid, firm coating around the outside of the cell membrane. Underline this line. Rigid, firm. Rigid, firm means it is a very strong coating, like a coat. A coat, like a coat, it is a very strong coating around the outside of the cell membrane. Means it is a very strong wall which is present outside of the cell membrane. Now, as you can see, the cell membrane is at the inside of the cell wall and the cell wall is at the outside of the cell membrane. So, it means that in a plant cell, a cell wall is protecting all the features of the cell. So, it helps the plant cell keep its shape. A plant cell shape is because of a cell wall. Because a cell wall helps to keep a plant cell keep its shape. Okay. So, a cell wall, what is a cell wall? A cell wall is a rigid coating, a strong coating, a strong wall present outside the cell membrane, and it protects the cell from any kind of damage from the outside environment. Okay, and also it allows the plant cell, it helps the plant cell to keep its shape. You can underline the cell wall, these two lines. Now, next point is chloroplast. Underline. Chloroplasts contain a green chemical called chlorophyll. Now, I have already told you about the process of photosynthesis in the start of this chapter. What is photosynthesis? I have told you that photo means light and synthesis means to make. Now we know that plants make their own food in the presence of sunlight. So, in which structure is responsible to help out a plant during photosynthesis. We also have to study that which structure helps out a plant during photosynthesis. So which structure helps out a plant? That is chloroplast. Chloroplast, these are the green structures, as you can see in this diagram. These are the green structures that are present in a cell, and these green chloroplasts contain a chemical called chlorophyll. That chemical is called chlorophyll. That chemical helps the plants to make food during photosynthesis. How? Because these chemicals help a plant to capture sunlight energy, to take in sunlight energy, and then they can make their food during photosynthesis. So these are the green structures present in a plant cell. They contain a chemical called chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is the chemical which helps out a plant to make food during photosynthesis. Again, I am telling you what is photosynthesis. Photo means light and synthesis means to make. So plants make their own food in the presence of sunlight. This is the process which is called photosynthesis. Okay, now the third point. Our last point is vacuole. You can underline what is a vacuole. As you can see in this diagram, the vacuole is in the middle of the cell, and it is the space occupied by the cell. It is a large space which is in the center of the cell, in the middle of the cell. So what is it filled with? It is filled with a cell sap. Okay, it is filled with a fluid that is called cell sap. Now we have studied that there is a fluid present inside the cell. That fluid is called cytoplasm. But we have studied that cytoplasm is just surrounding the cell, and it does not go inside any structure, inside any part of the cell. It does not go inside the nucleus, and it is the living matter of the cell. Now vacuole. Vacuole is also filled with a fluid that is called cell sap. Okay, and that is a liquid part of the cell, or that is a liquid portion of the vacuole. Now these three structures which we have now studied in the plant cell, they are not present in the animal cell. Now I'm showing you an animal cell. Can you see any of these structures which we have studied in a plant cell? Are they present in an animal cell? No, they are not present in an animal cell, because an animal cell is like, it is not having any of these three parts. So again, we go to the plant cell. Now we see that how many structure a plant cell is having. As similar to your books, I will just tell you the parts which are in your books. Number 1, cytoplasm. Number 2, nucleus. Number 3, cell membrane. Number 4, cellulose cell wall. Number 5, permanent vacuole. And number 6, chloroplast. So now you study these 6 parts which are present in a plant cell. Now what we have studied in an animal cell? We have studied 3 parts in an animal cell: nucleus, cell membrane, cytoplasm. Okay, now coming to the 4th cell. Similarity between an animal cell and a plant cell. Now you understand what is the similarity between an animal cell and a plant cell. Nucleus, cytoplasm, cell membrane. These structures are found in both animal cell and a plant cell. Now you have studied that these 3 structures, they are present in both an animal cell and a plant cell. Now we are going to discuss the difference. What is the difference between an animal cell and a plant cell? Cell wall, chloroplast, and vacuole. These 3 structures are only found in an plant cell. That's why this is the major difference between an animal cell and a plant cell. These 3 structures are only found in a plant cell. What are they? Cell wall, chloroplast, and vacuole. These 3 structures are different in animal cell and a plant. Basically, they are only present in a plant cell. They are not present in an animal cell. So now we are going to compare an animal cell versus plant cell. Now, as you can see, this is an animal plant cell versus an animal cell. Now you see that this is the vacuole. This whole large space which is in the middle of the cell, it is called a vacuole. Okay, and what is it filled with? It is filled with a fluid called cell sap. Now, can you see this structure in an animal cell? No, we cannot see this structure in an animal cell. It means that vacuole is only present in a plant cell. And also chloroplast, these green structures, as you can see. Can you see these green structures in an animal cell? No. It means that chloroplasts are only present in a plant cell. Now cell wall. As you can see that this is the inner covering. This inner covering is called a cell membrane. And this outer covering, that is the green in color, that outer covering is called a cell wall. But in an animal cell, there is just one covering. It means an animal cell is only having a cell membrane. It is not having a cell wall. Instead, a plant cell is having both cell membrane as well as cell wall. So today we have discussed about an animal cell and a plant cell. What are the similarities between them? What are the differences between them? So this is an animal cell. This one is a plant cell. These are the similarity between an animal cell and a plant cell. You can read out by your own self as well. And these are the differences between an animal cell and a plant cell. And finally, I have shown you a slide which is comparing both cells, animal cell versus plant cell. What are they telling you? Plant cell versus animal cell. That these three structures which are present in a plant cell, they are not present in an animal cell, as it is clear from the diagram as well. You can just look at this diagram and you can understand that these three structures, this one, these chloroplasts, and this outer cell wall, this one is not present in an animal cell but is present in a plant cell. So your homework is you have to do the question answers of page number 20. Test yourself question answers. You can write down. Homework is test yourself page number 20. You have to complete these question answers. Okay, and we will study these next page on in our next class. Okay, now I'm going to ask question answers from you, what you have learned in this class. Okay, and you have to answer me. And if you don't understand anything, you can ask as well. T students, now you can unmute yourself and you can answer my questions. Okay, you can unmute yourself and I will start asking you about what we have studied today. Hurry up, unmute yourself, all of you. Hurry up, hurry up.